What is going on, guys? Welcome to the Roundtable Talk. I'm here with Mr. Kirby Ferguson. He's done TED Talks about remix and everything. He's done several great film or documentaries about Q, and he recently just did a piece with the New York Times called "What Do We Do About Q?" And we talk about that a lot around here. So yeah, it's Mr. Kirby Ferguson. Thanks for coming, man.
My pleasure, man. Thanks for having me.
So, I think I have a lot of different people on here, and one of the first things I always talk about is, I know we can't reach a lot of the people on the right, especially people down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
But I really like some of your takes on how you think we reach people on the right. So, I guess that's my first question, kind of. Well, how do you think we reach people that have gone down the rabbit hole of the right wing sphere propaganda? Just totally red pilled, I guess you could call
Yeah.
them.
I mean, I think we have to let go of the idea that we can control people. I think that's what a lot of us want, right? Think the thing that I want you to think, right? And I just think that's not how people work in general. I think people need to uh let that go. Sorry, my mother-in-law's walking through the room.
Oh, no,
Um
no, sorry.
so I think people need to let go of that idea that you're going to inflict your will on somebody else. So that's a good start right there. But generally speaking, I think it takes patience. I think indirect methods generally work best. Like if you think you're going to do it like a full frontal assault of reason and win them over, I think that's not the language that they're speaking, and I don't think it's gonna go anywhere. I think listening to them and finding out getting a sense of what is it that they're concerned about, what are their fears. It's all about fear, right? There's fears
Right.
they have about that I tend to think are personal, generally speaking, right? And I think if you can help with those fears, if you can address those fears indirectly, and I guess I'm thinking more of like a real close friend or a family member or something like that. I think that's the only sort of person that you can influence a bit or
Right.
substantially.
That's what I've said to a lot of people is like I put out information, but me, guy on the internet, is never going to change
Oh
anybody's
yeah,
mind. Like
that's
it's only going to be you like talking to your brother or best friend or aunt.
exactly.
That's
Yeah.
usually how it's going to work.
Yeah, and I said that in one of my videos that I don't have any credibility with people who believe in Q. I don't have any chance with them. But you might, you meaning the viewer. So I'm talking to you right now. You meaning the person who knows the person who believes
Right. Yeah.
I can influence you, but I can't influence them. Basically, I think letting go of this idea that you can control people, being patient, being willing to endure it. I think in a lot of cases it's going to flame out like an addiction will flame out, right? It's just a thing that people have to go through, and it just can't hold up over time. It's full of predictions, it's full of speculations that obviously aren't reality. And I think for a lot of people over time, enough strikes are going to accumulate that they're going to eventually see that it doesn't it's not a theory that has any explanatory or predictive power to it, really. Now, having said that, plenty of people are going to be lost for a long time, and I don't know what we do about those folks. There's people who are not coming back, and there's
Well,
people
most definitely. Yeah.
yeah, and there's people who are gone who, if they just hadn't seen the wrong thing at the wrong time, they'd still be here, and that's a real sad thing. Just in that particular moment where they were vulnerable, they saw a fall of Cabal or whatever, right? And now the rest is history, and they're on this different path for who knows how long.
Right, and I think that's an important thing. Is like you're right. Like you can't just say, okay, well, clearly this is wrong, so you need to step back from that. It has to be, you have to be very like gentle about it, and it's never going to happen overnight. And that's always what I tell people. And you see so many people that that think like, well, this could never happen to me, but they're down on their luck, and then they fall down a rabbit hole on YouTube, and
Yep.
before you know that, they think the Earth is flat.
Yes.
And that's just kind of how it happens, and it's not, I think it's more of a right-wing thing now, just because more people on that side of the aisle happen to kind of go towards that more conspiratorial thinking. But I don't think it's, it's not that it can't happen to people on the left. It just tends to, there's not as many voices speaking that way, you know?
No, historically, there's been plenty of liberal conspiracy theories, like JFK and 9/11 are both liberal conspiracy theories. Those especially, like JFK in particular, initially was very much about the far left, was about the progressive kind of wing of the party, who had been who felt abused by the Red Scare. They were victimized by the Red Scare, and they did not trust government anymore. So there's definitely there's a whole left-wing history to conspiracy theories for sure. It's most certainly not a right-wing thing, and you can see sparks of it occasionally. Not occasionally. Right. It's there on the left. It's there. It's just not. There's no InfoWars of the left. There's no even mainstream guys there's no Donald Trump of the left. But there's even totally mainstream guys like Sean Hannity or Rush Limbaugh who are they have so many conspiracy theories, right? They're virtually conspiracy theorists. They have them all the time.
Yeah, no, they're
totally just filled. Yeah, those are just your right-wing pundits, And I think, sure, somebody like Rachel Maddow went too far with the Russia investigation thing, but I don't consider her overall to be a conspiratorial person. I'm liberal though, so what do I know? Maybe I'm biased.
Well, I think more Rachel got obsessed with a narrative, and I think I'm more on the progressive left, and there was a lot of voices on the progressive left, Kyle Kulinski, Jimmy Dore, that were, they railed against Russiagate because clearly this is a way of the establishment trying to cope for losing an election.
Yeah,
but it's not like it's not like in their DNA. You know what I mean? What's that?
Sort of like election fraud is right now for the right.
Right. Well, but they really know how to ramp it up.
Yes, it's bigger. we didn't have a sitting president selling it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I think I just right before we went live, I was looking on Twitter. They lost another 3 cases today.
Wow.
So I think they're one. They're entering 1 in 42 territory or something like that. That's
wow,
not
dude.
the greatest.
I watched the 40-minute Trump speech that he did 1 or 2 days ago, and man, it's not far from InfoWars. It's highly conspiratorial. It's highly delusional. The standards of evidence are non-existent. He'll just say anything.
Yeah,
it's a wild time, man. Somebody I follow, God, I can't pronounce his name. He's got kind of a long name. I want to look him up though. But I retweeted him the other day. But he said something about. He asked the question is there any other year that has had more been more conspiratorial than 2020? And I was like,
yeah, that's a negative.
No,
I think you could take all years combined, maybe.
Oh my God, it's so far beyond. That's what I said. There's no second place is way down the ranks, right? It is by far the most conspiratorial year that
we're gonna have to go back to the Warren Commission to even get a close, even a distant second. Yeah, no, it's not even.
I don't think it's in the same league. We didn't have a president who was openly and persistently conspiratorial day after day, right?
Right. Well, I think the another big thing that's really pushed it, especially on the right, is because the monetization value of pushing conspiracy theories. I was a buddy of mine who is on TikTok. We were talking about if you make an account, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, doesn't matter, and you get on there and you say about 15 different buzz phrases.
Yeah.
conservative talking points, you will instantly have 100,000 followers and 100 Patreon backers.
Yep.
It's just they rally around, even if the ideas are shit, man, they really rally around those ideas.
Yeah.
You take
really
somebody like go ahead.
People just searching for this shit, right? And just
Right.
on like they're gaming the system as best they can. And it's very much there's a big part of illusion to what's going on, right? Like these views and these likes and everything, like they're not real likes. It's people gaming the system.
Right. Well, and I just you look at people like Tim Poole is somebody I push back against often. And he even now, when anybody who actually follows the news and day to day and sees the writing on the wall. I just watched a video of his yesterday because I'm putting together another video about his grift. And he's on there. He's like, well, I don't know. I mean, Trump might have a shot, and they might put different electors out. And Flynn's calling for martial law. I mean, but who knows? Hey, maybe Trump might get. He still might get in office. And it's like and like every top comment is like, Tim's wrong. They're definitely going to get it. Trump's definitely going to win. Mm-hmm. Like they're saying like, dude, you're not going far enough. Like you're still acting like a liberal.
Yeah.
It's kind of like mind blowing to watch that. And then that's a guy that gets 100 million views a month. And all he's got to do is just be like, well, Trump could win. I mean, who knows?
Yeah. What irritates me about people like that is the low standards of evidence, right? Like that's something that irks me across the board. Like this election fraud evidence, like I've looked at a bunch of it with an open mind. Like if there was election fraud, great. I'm game. Right. Like I don't have a horse in the race. If it happened, fine. But it's all shit. It's all like everything I've seen. It's fucking garbage. It is sheer trash. And like the only way to believe, like for one thing, a lot of these people, like they're looking at video footage of what happened in some polling station. They don't know what the fuck they're looking at, right? Like they're saying this is funny because this person did that and that and that, and you don't know what it's supposed to look like. Like they don't know shit. And here they are saying that it's fraud, as if people are committing election fraud right out in the open, right? With like people cameras at them and blah, like it's just so silly. But like somebody like that, like Tim Poole is clear. I don't follow him that much. I don't know that much about him, but he clearly seems smart. He's not a stupid person.
No, it's an act.
Why are you believing this low quality shit? Because and I think you're right. Like there's huge cultural pressure on people on the right to believe that stuff. And it seems either he's going with the flow or he's convincing himself that, oh, there must be something here, and he's kind of lying to himself. But like the evidence is just such garbage. And if the equivalent thing was happening on the left, I would be completely repulsed by it and want nothing to do with it.
Yeah, I know that the people on the left are just kind of more like individuals, and they don't it doesn't the rallying around of certain narratives just doesn't work the same.
Yes.
Even if it's like healthcare, it's like, oh, Medicare for all who want it, Medicare for all, Medicare for America. There's so many different like camps to every issue, and it's not just they're very black and white about things. Mm-hmm. But Tim, people like Tim Poole and Candace Owens, they know exactly what they're doing. Tim knows. I mean, how long did it take you to put together that magical thinking? What did it take you? A month?
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
It took me probably 2 months to put together those 4 Fall of the Cabal videos. Maybe I got 100,000 views between all 4 of them.
Yeah.
Tim puts out one video, reads a Daily Mail article, calls something liberal bias, gets 1 million views. It's
well, and how long does it take to make this shit too, right? Like I have a new video that I'm working on that's about the Joe Rogan, Alex Jones interview that happened like maybe a month ago, and I've been analyzing it. I'm calling it like the ultimate, like the ultimate analysis because I like, go nuts with it. But like that's the like game theoretical disadvantage that the rest of us are at, right? Like you can shit this stuff out all day long, right? Like you can just put stuff out so fast, and then the rest of us, it's really easy to be on offense that way. And if you have to play defense and rebut this stuff, like it takes, like I said when I saw your Fall of Cabal video, I left a comment saying, like I admire, like, number one, your work ethic to stick with this stuff. Yeah, like because like taking a minute of that goddamn video, you can spend an hour or 6 hours or a day or whatever untangling what the hell is going on there, right? But so this is an unrelated point, but also just your stomach to stick with it. It's such repulsive.
That's what most people said. They're like, I couldn't get through 5 minutes of it. How many times did you watch it? I was like, probably 65. I probably watched the entire thing 65
Did you really?
times.
And it's fucking 3 hours long or whatever, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, just because it's so, you know, like I want to, because I kind of got into looking like into debunking conspiracy stuff like that by a lot of the people that I grew up around. Like I'm from Florida originally, and a lot of the people that I grew up around kind of went down that, you know, hardcore conservative Trump Republican road, and I saw them start, you know, sharing this QAnon stuff, and it's like, it, you know, like you said, it takes 5 seconds to say, oh, the Fed is privately owned, and the Rothschilds are running it, and it takes 3 hours to explain, well, actually, here's the history of the Fed and how it was started, and how it's the people are, you know, chosen, and no, Jerome Powell doesn't own the, you know, it just, but that's why the right-wing grift is so, you know, it's so popular, and it makes people on the other side have to play defense constantly because they're just fire hosing stuff at you. You know, and you're like, well, actually, technically, no. You know, you got to do one of those.
Yeah, it's a real interesting problem. Like I'm thinking a lot lately about, like, well, what do we do, right? Like clearly we can't just be rebutting all the time. That's not the answer. Like I feel like we have to have stories that we're putting forward that are simple and digestible, and I'm sure we're gonna have to compromise on the factuality sometimes. But like, how do we do? I think that's like a real interesting question, is like, how do we get stories that are comparably seductive and entertaining and dramatic and all that crap without just being completely full of shit?
Right. And that's one of the reasons why, you know, I used to, you know, just do, you know, videos and stuff. That's why I wanted to start having more guests and talk to other people. A lot of them have been other like TikTokers and stuff, but you know, that's my thing, especially with people on the left. It's like, how do we, like, we need to talk about how we combat this stuff with other people that, you know, make content and stuff, because it is a problem. It's a serious problem that you're always having to play defense. And it's so much easier if someone's on the outside looking in. You know, if you look, okay, over here at the conservative, it's patriot, flags, America, we love our country. And then over here, it's like the technicalities of Medicare for all and what defund the police actually means.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Totally.
It's a son bitch.
Well, let's tackle that. Let's try it. What do we do? What do you think?
Well, I think one thing, the left has to get much better at messaging.
Yes.
We're just bad at it. We're just really bad at it. You know, while I agree with 95% of the formula that encompasses defund the police, like it might be the worst name ever. You know, it might be the worst slogan ever. It just sounds bad. It doesn't, you know, unless you're really involved in politics, you know, it sounds like you want to get rid of all the police.
Yes. Which some
people, what I mean?
Or some people,
I mean, you know,
right? Like some people, they don't say defund the police; they say abolish the police.
Abolish,
that's what they're saying. What they mean. It's funny.
Right.
It's those things where I thought, like, oh, nobody actually means that. Nobody really wants to get rid of the police. But sure enough, there's people out there that are going to humiliate the rest of us, right? With just saying this.
Right.
Like, if there is no police, you're getting robbed once a week or whatever, right? Like, why not? Why would people not rob you once a week? Like,
I don't think anybody that's actually put real thought into it,
yeah, it's a
that has
young
any
person radical, like just
right.
burn it all down.
It's a
Yeah.
TikTok meme to say we
Yeah.
don't need any police.
Yes. Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's the 16-year-old girls on TikTok saying that.
Yeah.
But but that's a slogan. It's easy to take that and just put it onto everything. If you just want, what is it? Campaign Zero. They had a really good,
Yes.
a really good, like breakdown of like studies and statistics and everything about broken windows policing and how we fix it and how uh treating a problem is better than punishing it. It's really good. I did one of my first video that got like a couple thousand views. I basically broke down what their policies were, and it was really good. But that gets tied into, well, you just want to defund the police because you hate America,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
that's what we got to work on combating. And I think Joe Biden needs to, and they're really good but this is kind of, but they're really good at tying people into things on the left that have nothing to do with it. Like Joe Biden actually wants to fund the police. He wants to add $300 million
Yeah.
to the police budget.
Yeah.
But if you ask, I don't know, 60% of people that support Trump, they'll be like, well, Joe Biden wants to defund the police.
Right.
It's exactly, we're living in an opposite world.
Yeah. I mean, don't you feel like people don't, people are embracing these caricatures about what the other tribe is right. Like you're from a region of Florida. Is like a more of like the South than it is. It's not like Miami or something, right? Like
I lived in Tampa for most of my it's a pretty decent sized city, yeah.
Right, but there's plenty of conservative people there, I assume.
No, it's I would say it's probably more liberal. Like I lived on the outs. Like the people I grew up with were pretty much all became conservative.
Where were they?
But like Brandon is where it's the same basic area. But I live in Minnesota now. But like the people I grew up with, like they just, I don't know, just they all kind of stuck together and they all became Trump supporters. I don't really understand it, but it's kind of weird.
I mean, I grew up in Canada and it's a different culture in the East Coast. But I grew up with plenty. It's a basically conservative place. I grew up with plenty of conservative people, and it was the sort of place for me at the time where like you want to get, it's too confining, right? Like you want to get out of it. It's just too kind of narrow feeling. But I like those people and respect them, and I get their values. I get where they're coming from. I'm not afraid of them, and I don't think they're evil or whatever.
Right.
Like they're good neighbors and good friends, and they're family members and stuff to me, right? But there's a lot of people now where just they've grown up in a big city and they don't know any conservatives, right? Like if you grow up in or whatever, like you don't know a conservative from a hole in the ground, right? Like so people have these very caricatured, generalized. I think like part of what's going on with people getting, like when you're talking about Biden getting clumped, who's like a moderate conservative-ish liberal,
right?
Getting lumped in with Antifa and whatever. That same sort of lumping, I think, is going on the left as well, right? Like where people are calling people Nazis who clearly are not Nazis. Like we're just generalizing these huge, complicated, diverse groups of people all together, and generally speaking, making them the scariest, giving them the scariest names we can give them, right? Like you're all leftists and you're all
right
or whatever.
Well, and it's most people that even pay attention to politics, most of them can tell you a policy or a certain thing or how it's going to affect people. That's a small minority that really follow it.
Yeah.
And that's where you get a lot of people that support Trump, but it's just because like it's like their friends do, and they don't really know, and they
Yeah.
don't like care. They don't bother to care to look because they work 14 hours a day, and then
Yeah.
they come home and their kids are screaming,
Yeah.
and like I don't know, their buddy put a Facebook meme about Trump being
Totally.
cool, so they're like, all right,
That's
I
what
support Trump.
Yeah, and I think it's also about like I don't like those other guys, right? Like it's not so much about what your team is actually about. It's just I don't like these. I don't like
Right.
these. Like there is cancel culture and this sort of conformity to the left that didn't exist when I was a younger person, right? Like that spirit of we all need to do this thing. We didn't have I didn't have so much as a younger person coming up. But I think, some people, I think a fair amount of people rail against that. They really don't like this.
I think that
Having to use all
I think
the perfect words and
go ahead.
everything, and yeah, just having to get everything like just perfect. And if you don't, then you're sexist or racist or whatever.
I think the cancel culture thing, it's a little overblown. Like I feel like it's a thing that comedians have done one too many jokes about, because somebody like critiqued their joke. And
Yeah,
I think it is an issue on like a small scale, but I
it's
think
an
it's
issue
just
on
a
social
lot of
media. That's for sure.
what's that?
It's an issue on social media. That's for sure.
Yeah,
Like
it's
there's a lot of people looking to be outraged about whatever, and it's not just the left; it's the right as well.
well, and it's always you want to weaponize it against,
Yes.
the opposite team.
Yeah.
Like I like the pulling up old tweets about this or that from,
Oh,
10 years ago kind of goes a little far sometimes, but
yeah.
most of the time it's kind of, it's kind of blah. But and
Yeah.
I think conservatives actually uh they love to do that, especially people like Charlie Kirk. They just love to like
Oh, yeah.
pull up an old tweet of
Oh, yeah.
AOC's from like,
Mike Brown.
2012.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, they'll use that weapon if they can use it as well. Like it's not exclusive to the left for sure. But I definitely do notice, like just among my friends, I do notice a lot of judgment about people's expression. There's a over focus to me on the left on words often, where like you have to nail your words. And if you use a word that's old fashioned or something that we don't say anymore, I don't know that that means you're racist and you need to be accused of being racist, like let people, because people they're not all up on this shit, like they're not up on all the latest lingo and stuff. I think people could be less quick to judge when people say stuff that sounds clunky or is old fashioned or whatever.
I think there's always going to be a minority that wants to gatekeep, but I
Yeah,
think generally, and I think that's what happens is there's always the few that
we're very vocal.
get portrayed as the many,
Yeah.
and I think that's and I think there is a little bit of an issue more on the left uh than on the right. It just to kind of rally around like the overall goal.
Yeah.
Like I think it's like the kind of like the people that like I worked on Bernie's campaign. I was a big supporter of Bernie. Uh, nobody wanted him to win more than I did.
Hmm.
But, we lost. We got
Hmm.
to vote for Biden because the other
Yeah.
guy is terrible.
Yeah.
I didn't want, so that was a thing that I don't think would have happened as easily on the right. Like, they tend to, I don't know. I don't know if that's a good thing, but in that context, it's kind of a good thing. They don't fall in line. Like the left doesn't kind of fall in line with what is just the best outcome,
Right.
like
Right.
sometimes, like there was several people, big names that are like, oh, I'm Bernie or bust. And it's like, I don't really think you're helping anything because
Yeah.
if Trump gets another 4 years and then we get a 7-2 Supreme Court, then we're really up against it because the one guy's what, 84? I can't think of his name right now.
Hmm.
Uh, so
Yeah.
and same thing with the Hillary's as bad as Trump. It's like, no, that's not the case.
Yeah.
Uh, and then we know that now. I mean, I guess.
Yeah.
But But what? But yeah, what was I gonna ask you?
I mean, I think like something that I think everybody should be thinking about, like you and I should be thinking about it, and the viewers should be thinking about it, is like how do we, instead of just being about negating, about letting them play offense all the time, like how do we put forward ideas that resonate, that are simple, that sorry if you can hear that, that play to people's instincts. You know, like I think an advantage that the right has, generally speaking, is like they're big on the like just that guy is awful thing, right? You know, like that other team, they're awful. That's that's the message. If you
Right.
follow Dan Bongino or whoever, right? That's the shtick constantly, right? Is just these people are awful and they hate your guts. And that's a very simple and very satisfying story to tell. Like, you know, there's, I'll tell the viewers, but like I got a video banned on YouTube a couple days ago. So it went down, I appealed it, it got rejected, and it was seemingly over, and I had to like run this like online PR campaign to get the video back up. Ultimately went back up.
Isn't that great how you have to do that? You got to
Yeah.
like rally the troops, like, guys, help me out here.
Yeah, you have to like, yeah, you have to run your own little public relations campaign. So it turned out fine. Within 48 hours, it was over. But like that feeling of like for that day where I had to run that little fight where it was just these guys are bad, YouTube is bad, you know, it's
Right.
very easy, simple position to have where like we need to fight these guys, they're doing something wrong. That's a really simple, easy story to tell, right? And I don't know that we want to, I don't think culture, we can't have a culture where just both sides are saying the other team is awful and that's our ideology. Your ideology is like not that, right? Like the opposite of that. Or not even the opposite of that, just whatever that is, not that. We hate that. So like
that's what I was going to ask. What do you think? Yeah. What do you think Biden can do that would, you know, because I obviously, you know, as somebody that's more liberal, like what do you think he needs to do to kind of reach out to the right, to the people, not the GOP, because I have no faith in that. Mitch McConnell is going to try to push down everything, but there is some things he can do by executive order. Like what like is there anything like specific you think would be a good like strategy that would like maybe snap out some people that have kind of leaned to the right or just think Biden's like an evil socialist Antifa super soldier?
Right. I mean, I'll be curious if just living with him for a while has that effect, because he's a likable guy, you know, and he's quite moderate, and he's, you know, he's inclusive. He includes everybody. Like those 4 years of Donald Trump, it was like, he's only really president for half the country. Like the other half of the country, he's actively insulting every day of the week, right? Like he's just telling.
Oh, yeah, he went full in on I'm just going for the base.
Yeah.
He never appealed to the other side ever. Like he actively fought it, you know.
He actively
fought against half the country.
Yeah, he was trying to harm us in whatever way he could, us urban people and liberal enclave people. Right. So Biden's not going to do that. I'm hoping like when people live with that a bit, that might help just the actual like day-to-day existence of having him as president. And also it's just going to be so different. Like I don't think the news is going to be like, I think the temperature might drop possibly, meaning the heated battle that we've got going on, it might possibly drop. I'm fearful of making projections like that, but like his
I don't know how it can't though, just because he's such a, you know, I mean, he's not going anywhere, but he won't be president. You know what I mean?
Right.
I don't know if it'll be the constant fire hose. Like just like you were talking about the press conference that he had the other day. Like I did a live stream and didn't even talk about that once. I just went over the crazy lady at the Michigan hearing who
Right.
was a star witness, and that's just in one day. Like
Yes.
all that chaos,
Oh,
that was just Tuesday.
that's the thing.
That's
It's going to be boring. Like, there's going to be a lot of boredom
yeah.
to the Biden administration, right? And I wonder if people will like that. But in terms of policy, what he can do, like, there's the old nugget of infrastructure, right? Like, we had infrastructure
Right.
week was this joke with the Trump administration where it seems like
Infrastructure week.
yes, yes. It seems like this low-hanging fruit where you can just grab it and do it. I
I
like.
think that would be that's what I would say, and I would say
Why can't we fix some fucking bridges? Like, why can't we do this?
And if you can get a stimulus out there, if you can get a nice fat stimulus that we actually need,
Yeah.
The renters are in a fucking horrible place.
Yes. Here's what effect the vaccine will have as well. Like, can we rally behind? I know there's lots of people who are never going to take the vaccine, and they're going to be very vocal about you not taking the vaccine. But I tend to think there's not that many of those people. And I wonder if there can be some unity to, like, we all need to take this vaccine, and then we're gonna beat this thing, and we're gonna move on. Like, I who knows? I don't know how that's gonna play out, but I wonder if that can be a unifying moment.
That's one of the things I'm actually I'm working on something about vaccines and the safety of vaccines, kind of like over the history, because that's a thing I'm really worried about is people not taking the vaccine. But I don't really have too much information about that as of yet. Although there was a poll where something like half of the respondents said they weren't going to take it. That was just one poll. My sister, she's a nurse at an old folks home, and they got told the other day that they were going to get the vaccine in like 2 or 3 weeks, and half of the staff said they weren't going to take it.
Jesus, holy shit.
Half of the staff. Now I live in kind of a smaller town, Minnesota. 25,000, whatever. So it's Trump country, definitely.
Yeah, right.
But it's Minnesota, so we're on the liberal side.
Yeah.
But so that when she told me that, I was like, oh, great. And and that's people that are, even though they're just like CNAs and stuff, and some are nurses, but they have at least some medical field experience, and even they're like, I don't think I'm gonna take that vaccine that could get us to go out fucking side for once in 9 months.
That's a bummer, man. That's a bummer to hear.
Yeah.
I'll be curious what the overall numbers are on that.
Yeah, that's extremely anecdotal, obviously.
Yeah, totally. Of course. But I'll be curious if, especially once you get a load of people taking the vaccine, and then like they're out there doing their world, experiencing the world, and they're happy, like there could be some, people might just be jealous. They might be jealous of people being able to get back out there and live their lives.
Well, it's just, and that was the thing probably this year, that if you would have asked me a year ago, despite all the QAnon stuff, all the conspiracies, all the crazy shit that happened this year, but if 18 months ago, if you'd have told me that masks would have become, a partisan issue,
oh yeah, man,
I would have told you were crazy, because it's such a simple thing.
Yeah.
But yet it became like this symbol of, don't tread on me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sorry, I'm just going over this door.
No, yeah, you gotta.
It's getting pretty bright.
Get a little bit of glare there.
Is that better? That's better. Right?
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Yeah. So that's, if you can make masks partisan, you can make anything partisan, and that's what kind of scares me.
Yeah. By the way, I was reading the comments there for a second, and before it disappears off screen,
I can scroll back if you want.
Okay. Did I ever get an answer for why the video was taken down? No, I did not.
They don't give you answers.
Yeah, it just went back up. Oh, Joe Shapiro.
You get a vague copy and paste. That's what you get.
Yes,
I think
I got a message from Team YouTube. I did not get an email. I just got a message from Team YouTube saying we took a look at it and it was not violating our terms, and it went back up, and that was that. But there was nothing about my guess. I mean, I think you said this as well. I think I even got this from you. I doubt a person ever looked at it.
there's no way. I mean,
I think robots. I think it was robots.
It's supposed to be when you appeal. It's supposed to be a manual review. Like they're supposed to look at it and check it. When my part 6 and 7 of the Fall of the Cabal debunk, when I issued that appeal, within 5 minutes, I got a response. It's a 42-minute video.
Yes.
So something doesn't add up. You know.
Yep.
So even if they looked at it right away.
Yep.
You know, and it's just, you know, and when I talk to him on via tweet, which is, you know, a great way to conduct business. When I talked to him on Twitter, I was like, how is this any different than any, you know, like I'm using factual sources and correcting a video that's on your guys' platform.
Yeah.
So like all I did was take their video and combine it with my own video with mainstream sources, and like somehow that's harassment. Like this lady is calling half of Hollywood everything you can possibly, everything under the sun. You know, but my video
was harassment.
Go ahead.
Like for it?
Yeah, bullying, harassment.
Yeah,
same thing as all of them. They get mass reported is what happens.
Right.
You know what I mean? The Q crew finds your video and they're like, oh, they're talking bad about QAnon, harassment, bullying.
Yeah. Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, it's a real interesting
hard system.
Yeah, it's a real interesting realm. Like, what do we like? I am a person who thinks that generally speaking, we should let people say what they want, right? Like, I don't think we should be censoring a lot, but at the same time, we do have to censor. I don't see that there's any getting around it. I don't see why you want footage of murder scenes or whatever on YouTube. You know, like there's lots of stuff you can say that's legal. It's free speech. You don't get arrested for it, but I don't think we want it on frickin' YouTube or Twitter or whatever, right? So there is some line that has to be had there, and the scale that they're frickin' working on is just unimaginable, right? Like the amount of footage that's going through the site on a daily basis is mind-boggling.
I think it's 4,000 hours every minute.
Yeah, so how you police that shit, you know, is a real question. But it feels like they're going to have. I wrote a piece about this from this experience of getting banned for 48 hours.
Yeah, you sent it to me. I've read it. It's pretty good.
Thanks, man. Like we're going to have governance for these sites at some point, right? Like it can't be entirely within a black box, just where the company is, for whatever interior reasons, is deciding what can and can't be said. There's going to have to be some transparency there. There's going to have, at least for some fraction of the site, right? Like maybe it's people who are more established, who've been on the site a longer period or whatever. But there's going to have to be some sort of human governance where we can see why decisions are being made, can appeal them, like some sort of actual robust process of governance, rather than this very opaque process that's also very brief, right? Like you can appeal one time and then you're dead and that's it.
Yeah.
And this wacky thing that happens after, where you have to go public and you have to generate as much bad publicity as you can, and then you can get back up at that point. So
yeah, what a strange system.
That's a weird system for sure. And it's just not sustainable. Like I think there's too much heat that's going to come from both sides. Like there's got to be something that's not in a black box where nobody quite knows what's going on, right? Like we're going to have to let some daylight into this process at some point.
Did you check out that Nerd City video that I sent you?
I haven't watched it yet. No, I haven't had time.
Yeah. They do a really good job of breaking down like kind of how the demonetization, like there's trigger words and stuff. But
Okay.
yeah, there has to be transparency. And if you would have asked me 2 years ago about, censoring and all that stuff, I would have said, Alex Jones, all that needs to be able to stay up. The best sunlight is disinfectant. That's only kind of true. The more I look at, and the more I've seen how these QAnon level conspiracies and how like harmful this stuff is to people. Like this is an actual, 2 years ago it was like a meme. Now it's like a campaign slogan and like a societal health issue. Like it's a big problem. And it because of algorithms and how they work and how it shows you what you want, you can just get stuck there permanently.
Yeah.
And it's so, you never get the disinfectant that is the truth. And if you find the truth a year later, you've been told that everything the other side says is a lie. So it doesn't work anyway.
Like this piece, I forget if I mentioned this, if we were talking before or during the actual stream, but I'm doing this piece about Joe Rogan and Alex Jones, right? Was that during the show? I forget.
Yeah.
During Okay. But like Rogan talks about something like the way that you correct wrong speeches with correct speeches is the way he kind of puts it. But to me, like this is a theory that if you just let everybody talk, then the best ideas will
win. The marketplace of ideas.
Yeah. I've seen no evidence that is true. I just don't think that's a realistic vision of how the world works. And I wish it was. Like it's a lovely idea.
Nice.
I like it. Yeah, I like that idea. I wish it was true. I want to believe that idea, but I can't believe it because I just don't see it happening in the world. Like look at fucking QAnon, right? Like wouldn't we all be better served if Twitter and Facebook and YouTube just stepped in earlier? Like when was
they're about a year too late.
Pardon me?
And now I said they were about a year and a half too late.
Yeah. Like
when they did it half-assed, so they overcorrected. And it led to people like you and me getting our correction videos taken, you know what I mean?
Right.
Having to, tweet out, hey, can you guys help me out?
Oh, yeah, folks. Yeah. Yeah, but it's like when does this kick in that the correct speech starts winning out, right? Like you could see with QAnon, it's only going in one direction. And like with InfoWars, like that's another case where I think that like it just doesn't belong on YouTube. Like I remember watching it years ago because I was researching conspiracy theories pretty rigorously at the time and just watching YouTube, and it had a couple million subscribers by the time it went out. Really high engagement. Like if you clicked on an InfoWars video, you would get a bunch of InfoWars after that, right? Like boom, like you got a lot of it, right? And I just remember thinking, like, you can say this shit like on the fucking internet, and like you can be, I don't know, a teenager or whatever, and just be getting inundated with this stuff. Like it's really radical, dehumanizing stuff, right? Like that to me, that's kind of the main shtick of InfoWars. It's dehumanization. Like Jones says the words evil and scum and filth and all this stuff just constantly, right? And then
they're very black and white.
Yeah, like, and he's also telling you all the time that it's all coming to a head right now, right? Like we have to do something right now. And then what the thing that opens up is like, oh, well, what do we do right now? And the obvious answer is like, let's hurt some people, right? Like that's the thing that he's implying and not saying. So he gets to kind of dance around like, oh, I'm not inciting violence. And I'll tell you what, like it's impressive that as few people watch InfoWars and go nuts as what happens. Like it has happened a few times, but that it doesn't happen more, I think is a testament to how good people are generally speaking.
Right. Yeah.
It's constantly telling you these people are fucking evil and they're coming to get you. They're going to kill you. They're going to kill your children. He literally says these things. Like, I'm not exaggerating. This is
right. Yeah. No, that's, that's like mild. Like,
yeah, that's like, totally it.
Just killing them. That's like kid stuff. Like They're like sacrificing them and then drinking their adrenal glands and then becoming superhuman gods and stuff.
I mean, Q is lower than InfoWars. Q is worse than InfoWars.
Yeah, but I mean, he's or the when the time you're talking about, he was calling Sandy Hook a hoax.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Getting 20 million views a month or whatever.
Yeah.
Putting other human beings through just hell because they have all these crazies, saying that they're crisis actors when their kid just got murdered by a crazy man. How you even get there is beyond me.
Yeah, it's about as bad as anything you can see. I can't think of anything worse. Like is Holocaust denial worse? It's worse in scale, I guess, because it was so much bigger. But you're talking about murdered school children here who didn't get murdered, and I guess they're off in Tahiti or whatever, having a good time and enjoying their money. And these parents, they're crisis actors, so they're scum. And we really talk it to these parents whose children have been murdered. Like, it's just absolutely mind-bogglingly disgusting, right? Like, there's that shit that you just can't say in this world. Like, maybe it's legal to say it, but it's indecent to say it. Like, you can't say these things and expect society as a whole to be okay with it.
Well, yeah, and it's like, and that's almost like shows you how good good the grift works. Like how good the bullshit is at working, because you take the most sympathetic people you could think of and turn them into monsters somehow, just by accusing them of things with some like jump cut footage. Project Veritas on a smaller scale. I'm not sure how anybody ever believes any of their videos anymore, because it's always like 3 jump cut videos of a guy saying like 5 words, and it's like, oh, look at that, And it's like, but it was totally edited. Like, didn't you guys realize that after the 6 sting operation that went nowhere? People, and like, they still make a big deal out of like, oh, Project Veritas is new. It's like, okay, all right, let me just wait a day.
Yeah, like after a while, like, you just shouldn't listen to people, right? Like, why Alex Jones is on Joe Rogan, which is the biggest podcast on the planet. Like, why he is on there? Like, after the Sandy Hook thing, and Rogan does criticize him for the Sandy Hook thing, but to me, I haven't watched it yet. I want to watch it. You've gone too far. Like, we're done. Like, you can't talk to somebody like that anymore. Like, that is just too radical and horrific a thing to say. And like, I can't, we can't associate anymore.
Right. Yeah. At some point, I'm not, like I said, I've always been big on free speech and all that, because my feeling has always been, if they'll do it, if you say it for the right now, but then they're going to come for the left, they're going to come for progressives, they're going to come for AOC, they're going to come for this person. But at some point, and I think really like the biggest thing that needs to happen is a lot of these tech companies, they need to become public utilities, because they're too.
I disagree with this. I actually disagree with this. I think
what's your alternative?
I'm not sure. I think it's not that. I'll say that. Like, for one thing, who are we? The system that we have always had before this is that companies would gatekeep to some extent, right? Like, you couldn't. I talk about this. I'll be talking about this more in the new video. People can check that out when it happens. But the way it used to be is you couldn't get the really radical stuff just off the shelf at Kmart or whatever, right? Like, you could get it from your local newspaper. You couldn't get it from
real quick. Hey, if you guys have any questions for us, we'll do in a little bit. We'll do a couple questions or whatever. So if you have any questions, just put them in the chat, and I can pop them up on screen, and then we'll get to them. Cool. Go ahead.
So we had companies that kind of acted as gatekeepers to some extent, and that created a very overly curated media ecosystem. I think like it was too constrained, but now arguably we're too open, or at least we have been in the past. But it's the same essential structure, which is where companies are taking some measure of responsibility for what is or isn't being shown. But the problem now is we have these mega entities like Twitter and Facebook that are just historically unprecedentedly gigantic, right? But to me, like if you call them public utilities, then I think that the experience on those places, if you can just say anything that is free speech, that like Holocaust denial is free speech, I think like you can say that. Like I think these places will be worse. Like they will just be epic shitholes to hang out in. And then there's competitors who can come along and not do that because they're not public utilities. They're still companies. They can do what they want and they can give you a more curated experience. And then, you know, like these companies are going to hate it, of course, because they'll be at a disadvantage to other companies. But to me, if the boundary is just free speech, there's a bunch of shit that you can do within that boundary that is absolutely repulsive that the rest of us aren't going to want. And I think like this stuff is fueled by the idea that there's some sort of natural state that if we can just do this free speech, then everything's going to be great. Like as if free speech is some sort of law of nature or something like that. But it's not. And I think we're just stuck with you have to censor sometimes. We are stuck with that. And if anything that you can say in the world is carte blanche to go onto YouTube or Twitter or whatever, like I think that will be a very ugly place. Like all those Nazis on BitChute and Gab and 8kun and whatever, like they're over here now. And I think they will shit in the well for sure.
Well, I think you'd have to, obviously, this would be like a huge and I don't trust
the government to do this either.
Huh?
I don't trust the government to do this either. That's the other thing I'll throw it.
Right. Damn globalists.
No, I don't trust them to handle it well.
Right. No, but I think obviously you'd still have to censor the platform. I mean, I think it would have to be, I think the same, I think what we need is more transparency.
Yeah.
But I think we have to have rules. Like you can't be dead naming people. You can't be just, blaring the N-word. Like the things that conservatives consider censorship is just not being an asshole. Like if you want to call a girl a guy 50,000 times, that's not somebody infringing on your rights. That's just them asking you not to be an asshole.
Yeah.
So I think we need the transparency with these companies. One thing we either need to do, I think, we either make them public utilities with still a strong, set of rules and is transparent, or we have to break them up and they have to become like a smaller thing, because it's like too, like at this point, YouTube, Google, Twitter, like YouTube is Google, whatever, but they decide elections, they make or break, basically our public discourse at this point. And we don't know so much, like, about YouTube. Like you've been making YouTube videos for, 10 years, you said, or something. I haven't been making them that long, but man, I've been around the YouTube platform forever. We were both clueless as to how we, go about this, these processes of just appealing a discrepancy in a video. And I think we have to, and like these algorithms need to be like how they push certain things and how people get into rabbit holes. Like one thing that the QAnon people do when they put out videos is they'll put tags like, church, Bible, scripture. So, some old lady will look up a hymn or from the Bible or something. She'll get a video about, deep state, red pill, global, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a big, long, tough conversation.
Yeah.
But I feel like we need a lot more regulation and a lot more transparency when it comes to these big tech companies. So, like when conservatives, like, like people like Ted Cruz and stuff, like the stuff that they rail against at these hearings is just moronic. You have Jeff Bezos there. You can ask him anything you want, and you're asking like Mark Zuckerberg why they didn't push the Hunter Biden laptop story more. It's such a shit show. Which,
Oh.
whatever happened to that, by the way? Whatever happened to that laptop? Talk about something that fucking flamed out, man.
Yeah, I think breaking the companies up is more promising than somehow the government managing this. But that's tricky too, right? Because like, how do you break them up? Like, how do you break up YouTube? Like, how do you
Yeah,
break?
no,
Like,
that's a whole nother can of worms.
yeah, there's like a sports YouTube now and a comedy YouTube, or like what do you do? I don't know. And the appeal, the reason these companies, in my opinion, these platforms have become, I don't even think it's opinion. I'm like, this is why people did it. It's not because these companies are so evil and they figured out how to swallow up all of the market share. It's just we like having that one place to go, right? Like you like
Right.
when you want to buy whatever, you don't have to think about it. You just go to Amazon, you type it in and you buy it, you know? We want
We're gluttons for convience.
yeah, it's just simpler, right? So Facebook is everything. Like everybody's on it. You just go to Facebook and you can get your news. Facebook is the internet for most people, right? Like they go on Facebook and that's the first thing that they go to, and it's just everything comes to them through Facebook. So it's convenient and easy. So how you break those up? Like I think certainly like Instagram needs to like not be part of Facebook anymore. That's like a simple fix right there. Like break that. But
they own WhatsApp too, which is crazy.
Yeah, totally.
WhatsApp,
Absolutely.
you know.
Absolutely. But how you break Facebook itself up is super tricky because what they're doing is being that all-in-one destination. So how do you break that up? I guess it's a strange problem.
And one thing that we've really gotten bad about is just overall as a society, like we just become more and more monopolies in every industry. You know, there was 15 airlines when I was a kid. Now there's like 4. You know, every industry is becoming basically 1 or 2 giants, and it's just, you know, competition is just tough. You know, like you look at Amazon, they just announced a couple weeks ago they're getting in the drug business. You know, so you're gonna be able to get, you know, and within 5 years, what will you not be able to do with Amazon?
Yeah.
You know, and it's
you'll be able to buy
Jeff Bezos just has way too much power.
Yeah.
But there's no sign of it slowing down because it's so damn convenient, you know. We like to be able to go to one place and just, like you said, get everything. You know, same with Uber, you know, Lyft, all these companies. It's just pretty sad, but they might go the wayside, and Amazon might, you know, start a taxi service. Totally. Just have one app.
Yeah,
that's all we need.
Yeah,
everything from
the every app. Yeah,
the every app. It'll have our social media.
Totally,
everything.
Yeah. I mean, Amazon kind of seems like a simpler one to me, where you can just at least you can stop them expanding.
Yeah, that's another.
Yeah, like
that's
you can't. Yeah, whatever. But yeah, how you break up something like YouTube or Facebook, to me, that's a real tricky one.
Yeah, I don't. That's why I think but it's like it's such a long shot. Like nobody really, like these are conversations that are had, but they're such, you know, like people on the progressive left talk about it, and you know, like Nazis talk about it for like another reason. But nobody in government really, other than Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren, who Biden's not gonna, you know, they're not allowed. You know, they got to stay away from the cabinet. It's got to be a bunch of guys from, you know, McKinsey or whatever.
It's like it, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, those are the only kind of people that are really even, you know, bringing these ideas up.
Yeah.
You know, so it's so far from happening. But I think it's really, you know, because it's such an important thing. You know, it's how we communicate. It's how, you know. It's a total public discourse, and it's like this secretive rabbit hole algorithm machine, and it, you know, it's hurting a lot of people. Like I don't know if you ever go on what is it, QAnon casualties on Reddit?
Not much, no. I subscribe to it, but I don't see it very much.
But you know, you read some of the stories of like you know, oh, my uncle was a cool guy, and then all of a sudden he got into QAnon 6 months ago, and and now all he talks about is deep state cabals, and he won't talk to half of my family because they went to a Bernie Sanders rally one time, and it's just like this stuff is really like tearing people's families apart more than like, and that's what people don't see. Like, you don't see like you hear about like the riots or the looting because it's like a big news story, but you don't hear about like the actual like family, emotional, on a personal level stuff
Yeah.
that is happening really a lot all over the place. Like, I've seen plenty of people that are like, oh, well, I'm not talking to that person anymore because they're, a Trump supporter. I'm not talking to that person anymore because, they voted for Bernie. And like more now than ever, I think because of, the social media and the algorithms, and that you can literally get news from anywhere. Like we can both watch news all day and have two completely different stories. I think that's really adding to the polarization that we see, and that's where all the money comes from too. I mean, the other side is really bad. Listen to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's interesting too with Parler that like one of the obvious solutions to media concentration is competition, right? Like these companies need competition, but like so Twitter is the dominant short messaging app, not messaging app, whatever the fuck you want to call it. So Parler's competing with Twitter, but Parler
status update app or something.
Yeah. But like if you go on Parler, it's just a bunch of as far as I can see, it's completely conservative people on there, right?
Yeah, it's wild.
So that doesn't seem like a solution either for now, right? Like we can ultimately end up with like a right-wing Facebook or something like that, right? Like this is it's easy for things to get worse. People need to remember that shit can always get worse. Right.
And even like Facebook's pretty bad now. Like I barely ever go on Facebook because it's pretty bad.
Yes.
Yeah.
But we could have ideological social media platforms where your whole world is just one side, right? So things can always get worse.
Well, that's where the sunlight is the best disinfectant argument falls off. It's because maybe it is, but all this guy's seeing is Dave Rubin, Candace Owens, Tim Poole. Oh, you like Tim Poole? Maybe you'll like Alex Jones. You like Alex Jones? Here's Liz Crokin. And it just, that's the hole it sends you down. It's not like, oh, you like Liz Crokin? Here's Sam Cedar or something. You know what I mean? It doesn't go the other way.
Yes.
It feeds you what you want because, it's a business at the end of the day.
Yes.
So
and
that's what, the polarization is just terrible.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, they have to sacrifice engagement to make these platforms, I don't know. I mean, like less radicalizing.
Palatable to every,
less radicalizing.
Or transparent or something.
Pushing you farther and farther and farther into the thing that you are. And like, it also seems like a flaw to me because like some of the most exciting media discoveries I've made have been when I find something that's unusual, right? Like something that you don't expect. Like you used to be able to have this experience at a store, right? Where like something can just catch your eye and like, oh, I'm going to check this out. And then you just go on a completely different path after that, right? Like some randomness in the mix is exciting, right? You don't just want to just do this kind of step by step, like more and more and more of the thing that you want. It's nice to have some curveballs and some unexpected twists in there as well, right? So it seems like they could do a better job of incorporating that. I've got to say, for myself on YouTube, I have found lately, like the algorithm is pretty good. Like it's actually pretty good at throwing stuff in there that is different, but definitely kind of up my alley. Like I have found its curation actually sometimes to be pretty impressive. It's pretty impressive that it can think that this thing that doesn't have an obvious connection to stuff that you're into would be appealing to you. And it's actually, kind of like ideologically different from things that the majority of things that I'm watching. So there's some cool magic going on there as well in that algorithm.
I think YouTube definitely has the best discoverability.
Yeah,
Because they will actually throw out different stuff.
yeah,
Another issue is that not so much with YouTube, but more with like the short form platforms like TikTok and Instagram.
yeah,
Like it rewards like spicy,
yeah.
hot take kind
Sensational.
of content. Like on TikTok, you'll get many more views, likes, engagement, all that stuff at a video where you respond to somebody and you're harsh towards them than
Yeah.
if you're like having like a civil conversation. You know
Yes.
what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like, and I've found this. People like conflict. When I have
Yeah.
debates on here, I'll have, 400 or 500 people. When I have conversations with
Yeah.
people, it'll be, 20, 30, 40. Like people just
Yeah.
like conflict. And
Yeah.
so for that reason, social media rewards the conflict. But out of the algorithms, I've found that YouTube is probably the best.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that as well. I think like there is plenty of good work being done there for sure.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, yeah. Anybody got any questions? I wasn't looking at the chat there.
All right, you got them, people.
Yeah. So yeah, I know you talked about it a couple times. So what's your upcoming project? I've been meaning to do a live stream about that Joe Rogan, Alex Jones podcast, but
Have you?
is it basically just covering that? I've been meaning to, like, I haven't done it, but because I haven't watched it yet. I kind of want to just
Oh,
live
really?
react to it and see what
I'd be
see
curious
what
to see that. I would hope you can do that in the near future because I would like to see that. Yeah, that's the next thing for me is this. I'm doing this mega analysis of the Joe Rogan, Alex Jones interview and treating it. I'm trying to do something a little different. And I like to, in the last couple of videos, especially the last one, try to be funny. And to be funny, you have to do some ridicule, right? Like you can't be nice all the time. You've got to throw some punches, right? In this one, there's definitely some ridicule in it, but I'm basically trying to do something where, like, if you like Alex Jones, you can watch this video, and I'm not going to make you feel like a piece of shit for liking Alex Jones, right? So I'm trying to deliver it in kind of a neutral-ish while still being entertaining, but delivering it in a more paternal. Like I'm at the stage of life where I look at these younger people who are in their 20s or whatever, or in their 20s or whatever. I look at them in a paternal kind of way, right? So I'm approaching it from kind of a paternal sort of way where like you're young, you know, and I'm older and I'm more experienced and I can help you out in understanding some of these things. So I'm trying to treat the material respectfully, kind of, and I think that's a source of humor potentially in it because it's ridiculous, right? Like it's starkly ridiculous, but I'm treating it. I think I get some good jokes out of that, treating this ridiculous thing so seriously. But basically, I'm trying to like walk people through what he does, like the sort of the tricks of the trade of Alex Jones, because I think he's good at what he does, right? Like I think
he's the best at he's great at what his goal is. He's just got a terrible goal.
Yeah, but he's got game, you know, and I think we underestimate people frequently. Like we underestimate people like Alex Jones and Donald Trump and whoever. Like we don't give them
just like crazy,
that they're good at the racket that they're in. They're good at it, right? So I treat him with some respect as an info warrior, you know, as somebody with a PhD in bullshit. So and I like deconstruct how he does it. And that's what, and it's, I don't know how friggin' long it's going to be. It's looking pretty long. But the idea is to kind of show you, to me, Alex Jones is in the tradition of like, he's a confidence man, right? Like we say con man now, but like a confidence man is someone who exploits your, not just your flaws, like your stupidity or your gullibility or whatever, but also like your positive attributes, like your trust, right? Like your good faith in other people. They capitalize on that and use it against you, right? And I think Jones is somebody who he's sort of like an illusionist of information. Like he's good at manipulating you into believing things. So it's a serious treatment.
He's a grifter. He plays off the
Yeah.
emotions very well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's skilled at it, and not many people treat him seriously, you know. So this is a video where I treat him seriously. I give him some props for being good at what he does. But generally speaking, I'm trying to kind of lift the curtain on what he does, and I think it's insightful not just to understand what he's doing, because I think plenty of people were persuaded by this interview, right? Like I think plenty of people saw it and thought, oh, he sounds kind of all right. Like he's got some points sometimes. And my analysis of it is that it's a complete fucking shit show, just utter disaster. Really,
right.
really.
Well, yeah, it was a big thing all over TikTok. A lot of people shared clips of that, like, oh, look, Alex is on, he's on point here, and it's like, no.
Interesting.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You should make that piece, man. I'd be curious to see what you come up with.
Yeah, no, I have a couple other things I'm gonna do, but I'm trying to set a live stream schedule, do it like 2 or 3 times a week. But yeah, I definitely want to cover that, because when it came out, a lot of people are like, dude, this has you written all over it, and I've just been busy with other stuff, and it hasn't hit the repertoire yet. But that's one of the reasons I wanted to have you on, because you hit on something there, and I think it's very important, is that in order to critique these people and break them down and get people to understand, like, you have to take them seriously.
Yeah.
Like that's what I did with the fall of the Cabal. Is I was like, okay, I'm going to take this seriously. Let's go through each claim. And then it's kind of like your piece that you did with the New York Times.
Yeah.
Like you take it seriously, and then you have to explain why it's still wrong and absolutely batshit. Yeah. You can't just be like, well, these people are dumb and stupid. Clearly, that doesn't work.
Yes. Yeah, I'm trying to find a voice where, like, you can treat things seriously. You can also be funny, make some jokes, like make fun of the ideas, make fun of the arguments. Don't make fun of the people. Like, I really tried to avoid doing that. I really tried to avoid making fun of these people, because we've all had stupid, fucking embarrassing beliefs at different points in our life, right? And
most definitely.
Yeah, and for the most part, you get to do that it used to be in the old days, you got to do that in private, and now it's very public. And I feel like a bunch of people telling you you're stupid or whatever is just going to make you retrench and stay in there longer, probably.
Well, it's going to make you double down, and then it's going to make you hang out more with the people that aren't calling you stupid.
Yeah, and hold a grudge for fucking ever, right?
Right. Well, a lot of this stuff, it's just community, like these people. Even if they're wrong, it's like, well, all my friends are in this Facebook group about QAnon now, and it's like, I don't really want to know the truth, because I've built this community around this batshit lie, and I kind of like it here. People are nice to me.
Yeah,
that's.
I remember seeing Mick West. Do you follow Mick West?
Yeah, I like his stuff. Okay. He was like the first conspiracy debunk guy I ever really. I saw him on the Joe Rogan podcast, actually.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, he does. He's a veteran of the game. But I remember him telling, it might be in his book. He has a good book called Escaping the Rabbit Hole, and he told this story about, it was somebody who was into 9/11, and it was really hard to get out of it, because it's your social life, right? Like, it's your whole. They had actual they had meetups in wherever they were, and it was all your friends and stuff. And he ended up getting ostracized, this guy, I believe, because he was asking critical questions. He was like stopping, he wasn't buying it anymore, and there was no place for that within the community. Like, you can't be an actual skeptic. Like, as much as there's a lot of people who are in conspiracy culture, and they'll talk about things like skepticism, they'll talk about confirmation bias, they'll talk about cognitive dissonance, and then they'll just like completely flagrantly do those things, right? like you do that shit, but not me. I'm just like completely blameless.
Yeah, that's the thing. You have to realize how much like these people have built into this like community, and it's like you said, there's meetups involved, there's the weekly poker game, everybody wears a QAnon hat or some shit, all kinds of stuff.
So you're fiercely skeptical about like the mainstream, but you can't, there's no room for skepticism within that movement. You know, it's extremely conformist. You kind of got to believe whatever. And what happens is people do have different takes on, like, everybody has kind of their different, there are all sorts of different flavors of QAnon belief, right? But none of them end up getting falsified and dismissed, right? They're like these zombified things that just kind of live forever, right? And that's not a body of knowledge. Like, that's not, you can't build knowledge that way when everything just is okay, and you can't, you can't kill off the theories that don't work. They just live forever, and then you're permanently in this haze. And it's very amnesiac conspiracy culture, generally speaking, right? Like, it's whatever they're into, like the latest shit, and then the old shit is just totally forgotten. It's yesterday's news, right? Like, they all forget.
There's like no object permanence.
Yeah, totally.
It's like they're children. It's like, whoa, well.
It's like Memento. It's like the movie Memento.
Yeah. Like you said with the I don't know if that was while we were talking or after we went live, like the children, like save the children, like QAnon hasn't talked about save the children in months at this point.
All election fraud now, right?
It's Sidney Powell voter fraud, and we're not voting in the Georgia election.
Totally, totally, yeah. And I would not be surprised if in the future, if it just morphs into something else completely, right? And just the children stuff is in the rear view window. It's memory hold. It's gone.
Right.
And they're on to.
It'll be like a callback. Like they'll call back to it like once every blue moon, you know.
Yes.
And but because it's a good way to it's a good recruitment tool.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's funny how they would guilt the rest of us, try to guilt people about how, like, you need to, like, care about the children. It's really about the children, but lately it's not about the children at all.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if I'm sure you've looked into it enough, obviously, and I think we always knew it wasn't about the children. I always say, like,
I think some secretly believe that, actually, Tim.
What's that?
I actually do think plenty of them do believe that. I think there are plenty of people.
Oh yeah, they believe it wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
They're I always just say they're LARPing. They're LARPing as like superhero detectives. Like they're out to save the world from. It's like this cool fantasy role play thing.
Yeah.
And they get to do it with all their friends. It's like cosplay, but like every day, and kind of real life. It's weird, and it becomes like this odd, like sense of community. Like I've interacted with these people so much, like I like it's like this weird community they have, and they're like super detectives.
Yeah.
They believe it wholeheartedly. All right. Yeah, I think I don't know. I guess I didn't get too many questions there. You guys aren't very curious. But I appreciate you coming on, man. Thanks a lot. And if you guys want to check out Kirby's stuff, all his his Twitter, YouTube are in the description of this video. So yeah, he's done several great videos on conspiracy theories and QAnon. His piece in the New York Times about Q is in the description. So definitely check that out. Give him a sub on YouTube. He's got a YouTube channel. But thanks everybody for coming to the live stream, and probably going to be doing another one tomorrow. I have a video out this week about Tim Poole, hopefully. And yeah, thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Tim. I'm talking to the Tim in the chat here as well.